Welcome, everyone. This is Kelly Devine from the Global Peace Film Festival. We're welcoming you once again to the GPFF Lives Online conversation tonight. We're very honored with Fr3der1ck Taylor. He'll be discussing Counter Histories, Rock Hill, South Carolina, and his current projects. We want to remind everyone that this is a Facebook Live event and we are talking on Zoom. So please put your comments on Facebook. And if it helps your streaming capability, you can turn your video off since we won't be able to see you if it improves the streaming quality. But other than that, we are really excited to jump into this conversation with Fr3der1ck. Nina, thank you so much for starting us off.
Yes, and welcome, Fr3der1ck.
Hey guys. Hello, hello.
Hi.
Nina, you want to take the slide up?
Oh, yes. Sorry, we got a couple of very late RSVPs through Eventbrite, so I'm just trying to send them the link. So I will. Oh. There we go.
There we go. There's Fr3der1ck.
Yay.
Fr3der1ck, let's start off by talking about in 2018, we had the distinct pleasure of hosting you down at our festival with Counter Histories, and I had just so many lively conversations that went well past the time that was allotted, which is what we love. We love when a filmmaker as vibrant as yourself really connects with our audiences. So tell us a little bit about Counter Histories for those people who may be tuning in and don't know about the film, and where your journey has gone from there.
Wow, it's thank you for having me this evening as well. I'm actually very excited to do this, and I think this is a tremendous forum to be able to talk about many things having to do with media. In a very interesting time with media. And this is a media piece, there's no question about it. And it's one of those pieces that operates, it was an ode to the past from the perspective of the present. And what I didn't realize at the time, that it would be something that would be a sort of a portal into the future. There's so many things in the documentary that were discussed, or that we discussed in 2018 that have now materialized before our eyes in 2020. And so it really gives you a perspective on the power of story and how great story operates in the past, the present, and the future all at the same time. This is a story about civil unrest. This is a story about peaceful dissidents. And it's a story about some young men that were inspired in the early 1960s through John F. Kennedy. And literally a few days after he gave his famous speech, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. These young gentlemen who were in college decided that they were going to walk into a counter at a diner and sit down and politely ask to be served. Now, the problem with that was it was 1961, and the other problem with that was that they were of African descent, and it was illegal in South Carolina to walk into a restaurant and ask for service in 1961 if you were of African descent. This is something now that seems absolutely positively ridiculous to us, but they were jailed. You know, they went to jail for 30 days, they went to a labor camp, and they elected to not pay bail because the system was making money off them. They were arresting Black people back then and making them pay bail, and they were making money off of them. So they were oppressing a group of people and they're making money off of them at the same time. So they elected to sit in jail. This inspired one of our greatest congressmen of all time, John Lewis. He came up to protest with them. He was actually beaten as well. And this particular incident helped to spawn the era of civil rights as we know it, as these great media events as well. And the film really does focus on a lot of civil unrest and discourse and protesting and rallies and things like that, and police brutality and violence. And guess what? Here we are again today. And at the time when the film was made, we never thought about it having a tremendous significance. One of the other things about the film that is extraordinary is that we discuss the relationships between political leadership and the social emancipation of the disenfranchised. And in the past, whether we were talking about either party, and that included the Kennedys, the Eisenhowers, the Johnsons, the Nixons, the Carters, the Reagans, the Bushes, the Obamas, the Clintons, the presidents were consistently on the right side of history. We are now living in a world or faced with a bizarre discourse or dissonance. Not since, Andrew Jackson has there been a president that is completely and literally on the wrong side of history. And we have to figure out a way to move forward and move forward peacefully, in spite of the fact that at times we view and see things through media like the murder of George Floyd. And it angers us and we want to fight back. And we have to continue this peaceful march forward in order to have sustainable order moving forward. And some people are comfortable with that, some people aren't. Some people think things are perfectly okay the way that they are, and can't we just go play NFL football? And the answer to that is no, there are more important things to do than play football, and go to bars and get tattoos and go bowling, and this is what the film is about. This is essentially what we were talking about in 2018. And now we have a world that we can apply it to, which it's been fascinating. And, we now understand that we are all in this together. These gentlemen that are in the film, that is us. We are these gentlemen. And so this idea that there is gender segregation or racial segregation or religious segregation, those are all false constructs. They're not real. We're all people, and we live and breathe like all other living beings. And we are here together in concert to be able to hold and keep the universe together, because we are watching before our eyes in real time the universe falling apart, and not only just on a geopolitical level, but an environmental level and a holistic level as well.
So you had the opportunity to virtually show the film at the Cannes Film Festival in the midst of both the pandemic and right as the Black Lives Matter, right before the George Floyd murder.
Correct.
What's been the difference between, well, first of all, how was your experience with the Cannes Film Festival, but also more importantly, what has been the difference between showing the film in 2018 when you first finished it, and this year in the current context?
In 2018, it was an American film. In 2018, it was American history. In 2018, it was a film that screened at thoughtful film festivals such as your own. Now it's global. Now it has an appeal all over the world. Now the audience is not only American, but Indonesian and Indian. And it looks like it's going to get a theatrical release in Amsterdam as well. It is appealing to people from all different backgrounds and all different walks of life. It's translating very well into other languages as well. It's something bigger than what I thought it would ever be. I thought in 2018 when it was screening with you guys, I was like, this is great, but now it's turned into something amazing and really important. And the death of George Floyd really shines a greater light on that. It's so important that people like him don't die in vain. And it's so important, like the gentlemen that are in the film, that, had their lives altered because they made a decision that was for the greater good of this country. I mean, they lived with a felony on their record for 56 years. These gentlemen could not leave the country. These gentlemen could not vote, because they stood up to the system. That these people do not live in vain, that their lives have not been sacrificed for nothing, and that goes for so many people throughout history. And we could talk about Harriet Tubman, we could talk about Susan B. Anthony, you know, we could talk about Harvey Milk, you know, these are people that cannot be forgotten. And George Floyd goes into that pantheon of people. And that's kind of how I see it. It's putting another star into the stratosphere, you know, another light is shining, you know, and the film is something that just, it's so resilient and sustainable, and it just ages so well with time. I mean, it's going to be exciting to see what this film means to people in 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25, 30. Will they, you know, I really want to encourage people to teach it in school as well, just because there's so many things that kids are not learning that can help us to avoid these types of situations in the future when it comes to levels of unnecessary violence and apathy, more, you know, also in dealing with who we are as a nation and how we relate to the rest of the world too. You know, it's not the good old days or when America was great again and we were number one. We're not number one anymore. We share the top spot with everybody else. And that is humility. And humility is the thing that dignifies you as a true human being, you know. And it's time for us as a society and as a culture to act like, you know, some human beings, you know, rather than these sort of bullies on the block thinking that we're better than everyone and impervious to disease.
That's a beautiful statement to get back to our humanness, because I do think we've lost sight of that in many ways. And so in between 2018 and now, you've remained this very vibrant artist, creating so many things. Can you talk about, you know, how as an artist you're reacting to this moment?
It's been a blur. You think that your life, as you continue to move through it, you age, it's going to get slower. Mine's increasing with speed. There's a level of urgency now in my life that the only thing I could compare to it is when I first got out of college and I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm running around at 100 miles an hour trying to figure it out. I'd like to think now I know what I'm doing, but I'm still running around at 100 miles an hour trying to figure it out, you know. I've never worked more or worked harder, you know, and the levels to which I'm pushing myself is applying what I understand and know about social justice and what I understand and know about being someone of African descent and what I understand and know about being American, and applying it to other topics. You know, that's the amazing part about this. The Counter Histories documentary created a window of opportunity for me to work with another family in California who has a transgendered child. And I'm not transgendered, and nor did I grow up with someone transgendered or knew anything about being transgendered. But this family still wanted me to be the person to tell their story because they felt that I understood human beings. And it changed me. It put me in a whole different category. I mean, this family is not even African American, and they're raising a transgender child, and they want me running around their house with a camera, which was, you know what I mean? Like, when you really start to live your life, you get out of these stereotypes, you get out of these preconceived notions and perceptions about things and people and things like that. We stop thinking in terms of man, woman, black, white, gay, straight, rich, poor. When you really start to live your life, when you really start to open yourself up and you allow people into your life who have nothing but goodness for you or a positive intent, but you have to be able to be open to it. And you have to be able to recognize it and have the courage to embrace it. And fortunately, in that situation, I was able to do that. Then it happened again. I started working with two other guys. They're Jewish. They're two Jewish guys, and they make music, and they've been making it forever. And they have a love of, you know, the blues and gospel and rock and soul and all this stuff that they do. And one of the gentlemen in the group has survived cancer. Another gentleman in the group has lost his wife and they still moved forward making their music. And now I'm making their story as well. And what do I know about being a Jewish guy? Absolutely nothing. But I'm learning so much more about being a Jewish guy by being around them. And once again, it's coming back to just this human experience. Then it happened again. And I got asked to speak at a conference for Asian Americans. And I stood in a room full of people and talked about cultural identity in a room full of Asian Americans. And I kept getting invited back to these Asian American conferences to talk about cultural identity. And I didn't realize I was helping to teach them about cultural identity by being a Black guy that knows something about cultural identity. And I was able to translate that over to another culture who had felt, you know, frustrated, disenfranchised, how to stand up for yourself, how to fight for what's yours. And I didn't realize I had that kind of power, you know, and that changed me. Again, all of these things happening because of Counter Histories. And that's been, that part alone has been an incredible journey. I shot a film 4 years ago at a Trump rally in 2016, and everybody thought I was a lunatic for doing it. And I did something that was fair and equally balanced on both sides. I focused on kids. And it was all about how kids feel about, you know, the Trumpian universe. Some of them support, some of them don't. I showed both sides. And I realized that that brought a discourse into the mix where people get really angry if their particular side isn't the one that's dominating, if you're not favoring their side, if you're not manipulating for their agenda. And for me, children are never about an agenda. Children are there to support and to guide and to listen to, whether we, you know, believe what they're saying to be true or not, or whether you think they're right or not, or whatever. We have to let kids work these things out for themselves. And so that particular piece is called Trump's Children. And that's something else that I've done as well, which has been another fascinating journey in being able to, in spite of anger and vitriol and frustration and hate and people putting people in categories, still walking that line and still focusing on the fact that people are people and people are human beings. Nobody's going anywhere. We all are still going to live here, and we got to figure out a way to get along. And nobody's going to dominate anybody. And anybody having the notion that that is possible or plausible is absolutely ridiculous. And that's the point of that particular program. And then the last one is the one I'm currently shooting, which is called Pre-Existing Freedom. And it's all about this concept of freedom. We think we're free, we're not free. And the more we argue and the more we fight, the more we enslave ourselves and enslave our minds, and we keep ourselves from actually being able to grow. Because I truly, truly believe, you know, the way this country is working now, if you don't own a slave, you are one. And I really, really, really believe that now, because I see so many people that are acting out in ways that are ugly, narrow-minded, disrespectful, and they're not getting anything out of it. You know, there's no PPP check coming for someone that wants to take up arms and walk to the Capitol building because they want to go get a haircut. You know, nothing's changing for them. You know, right. It's ridiculous. And people need to understand that, you know, unarmed people should never be killed by law enforcement under any circumstances, period. That's the bar, that's the line. If you cross it, there's a problem. You know, and this pathological fear that we have of Black men, that Black men are bad, Black men are evil, Black men are not intelligent, they're not smart, they're angry, they'll hurt you, they can't control themselves, you know, unless we throw a helmet on them and ask them to score a touchdown or dunk a basketball. We can't live like this anymore. We can't continue to operate in this space the same way we can't expect women to, you know, stay in the kitchen. You know, we can't expect gay people to stay in the closet. You know, we can't expect, you know, immigrants to come to this country and not want to aspire to the highest heights that we have attained already. You know, everybody deserves dignity. And that's what this film is about. It's finding that dignity Again, I had the pleasure and the honor of being at the Rayshard Brooks funeral as well. And it, you know, we were shooting, and I have a shot of the casket coming out of Ebenezer Baptist Church into the hearse. That's history, you know, and the more I'm doing this stuff, the more I'm becoming a part of history. And so I'm finding meaning for myself as an individual through others, not because I'm running around seeking it, trying to draw attention to myself so I can be famous, I can be popular. No, me being the best person that I can be and me putting something back into society and culture is making me a part of history. And I'm very proud of that, you know. So I'm good, you know.
Good.
Yeah.
So Frederick, in a conversation we had, I think this is a it reminds me of a conversation we had just recently, where after we were having a similar conversation about the issues and the polarization that's cleaving our society and that's keeping people from really living their full humanity. You mentioned, and I apologize, I forget, it was a woman had mentioned to you a kind of frame of judging things, either loving or not loving.
Correct.
And I thought that was an interesting way of going through life, because there still needs to be quite a lot of nuance. We have to forgive people, even who have done terrible things to us. We can't throw anyone away. We have to, you know, if we really believe in that humanity, all of us are worth saving, right?
Agreed. Yes. And that's the greatest challenge that we have in life. That's the thing that's always put in front of us to decide, whether it's you're in a fight with your friend in 3rd grade, you're mad at your parents, you know, an ex, people on your job, whatever. These are dynamics that we live with our whole life, you know, society, culture, you know, and we have to still be able to find our way to love, but we must put boundaries on unloving constructs, unloving people. We don't love them any less, but we have to put boundaries on them and say, here's the line, you know. And until you want to be a little bit more understanding and you want to be a little bit more loving and respectful, this is where the line is going to be. We're not here to all be the same. We're not here to all act alike, walk alike, talk alike, think alike. We're here to all be different. The same way when you go for a walk in the woods, not all the plants don't look the same. All the trees don't look the same. You look up in the sky, all the clouds aren't the same. The world's not the same. The world is built on diversity. The world is built on differences. This construct of everything being the same or everybody agreeing on everything, or, you know, it's a human construct. It's a false construct. It's a way of us being able to make false order out of seemingly disorder. You know, I have shot in places like Nairobi, you know, where you would walk in and you would think this is the most chaotic place in the world. Oh my God, these people live in a shanty town. Oh my God, these people work for 2 shillings a day and do the most impossible things, and they sweep dirt off their floors in their little tiny huts. These are some of the happiest people I've ever met in my life. These are some of the people with the biggest smiles on their faces. These are the people that give you the hugs. These are the people that tell you that they love you. You know, these are the people that have come up to me and told me over and over again to my face, you are more African than you are American. They're the people that have helped me to find my identity as a person. You know, I have met people in India who have told me that they've loved me. I've met people in Romania who've told me that they've loved me. I've met people in South America who've told me that they love me because of me and the person that I am and what's on the inside. And that's it. And that I'm totally different from them and they love me. And then I come back to America where allegedly I have all this in common with people, and I'm scared to be on the street at night after 9 o'clock. You know, I'm scared to go to a Wendy's. You know, I'm scared to be detained by the police. You know, I live in a country where I have a 10% chance of being killed by law enforcement if I'm detained. That's insane. That's insane. Despite the fact that I have an education, despite the fact that I have a master's degree, despite the fact that I've owned my own company, despite the fact that I've done everything I'm supposed to do in this society to be respectable, and at the end of the day, I'm still living in fear. You know, something to think about, you know? And so this is the part of what drives the train for me as a filmmaker. And that's why now, you know, I'm working harder than I ever have in a time that is very hard for everyone else too.
Well, so how then, Frederick, moving forward, how can we show some love towards you for all of the folks that are watching on Facebook Live and who want to support you and your creative vision, who might want to, you know, themselves learn a little bit about their own humanity? How do they support you?
And this is where I insert the Venmo joke. Is it right? The Venmo joke goes, this is my Venmo, and you know what it is? You know what I ask of people is that they take time with people, get out of your comfort zone, watch a film that you normally wouldn't watch a film from another country in another language, you know, go hear a speaker, you know, or an artist talk from an artist that's a woman or someone that's gay or transgendered or from a different background than you. Get out of your box, do something different, you know? Maybe one night you don't order a Miller Lite, you order, you know, Asian beer. Just try it. Like, you know, do something different. You know, different is the gateway to diversity, you know? And you would be surprised what you will find out and discover about yourself. You know, listen to some music you've never listened to before. Don't get, you know, we've all been around people who are resistant to indigenous music, ethnic music, rhythmic music, music that makes you move or feel some kind of way. You know, and you'll watch them and they'll just tighten up. I'm like, oh, I can't enjoy this. I won't let myself enjoy this. Enjoy it. Embrace it. You know, you may find something in yourself that's wonderful, that's been sitting dormant because you've been told all of these other things. And the power of what you can be told is amazing. We can be told that we are ugly. We can be told that we're not worth it. We can be told that we're stupid. We can be told that it's not worth us being here. It's like Elvis Presley's grandson passed away over the weekend. And it's so hard to wrap your mind around the idea, like, here's a guy that had everything, born into everything. And at the end of the day, he still didn't think he was worth it. You know, that's how powerful the mind is, or that's how powerful suggestion is to people. And then you'll hear stories about people that have nothing, come from nothing, and they aspire to greatness beyond people's wildest dreams. And how does that happen? Because somewhere along the way, somebody told that person that they were okay, that they were beautiful, that they were worth it. It was worth the time. So the other thing I just ask of people is say something positive to somebody else. You know, even when you have these notions, you want to say something negative or write something negative in your Facebook page or say something mean, stop yourself, censor yourself, take a breath, take a step back and say, okay, you know, today's the day I'm only going to say positive things to people. Today's the day I'm going to be nice. Today's the day I'm going to, you know, talk to the little old lady in the elevator. I mean, I try to do that every time I'm in an elevator alone with someone. I try to make them happy between the first floor and whatever floor we're going to, whether it's a joke or say something funny or whatever. It's a little bit tougher now because of COVID. It's kind of weird if you do it now. But before, you know, it was always, you're trying to connect with people. It means so much to people when you do that. And it changes them and it carries something off that they may share with someone else down the line. And you don't have to be there to get the reward. And that's the other thing. Too many people live their lives thinking, I only do nice things because I'm going to get a reward. I'm going to immediately benefit from it. I'm going to see or reap the results of that. That's not what this is about. This is about doing something and you never know what happens to that person. I've had people repeatedly in my life come up to me and say, You said this thing to me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5, 10, or whatever. It helped me, it changed my life. And I did this, and now I'm doing that. And now I'm so happy. And I just want to thank you for that. That's legacy. That's why we're here, you know, and that's what really matters. I had a grandmother, she passed away 2 years ago. She taught school to children for 40 something years. And you never heard her complain once about it. And she was the kind of woman that you were around and you would meet people standing in the grocery line and they would say, oh, your grandmother taught me when I was a kid. And these are people from teenage years all the way to people in their 60s. You know, that's the
Right.
swath of people that she influenced. You know, those types of people are great Americans as well. And being a great American is giving back. It's always giving. The only thing you should do and can do as an American is give. There's no such thing as being an American and taking. Because we've gotten so much by taking. We took this land from an entire group of people. We have a debt to pay. Period. End of story. We're a long way from saying we can coast, and we know it. You know what I mean? Like, women are only having the right to vote for the past 100 years. This year is the 100-year anniversary of women having the right to vote. This is new stuff. You know, we owe so much to people that we have held down. And so every time there is a woman that wants to move up in the world, get out of her way, please. You know, every time someone that is from the LGBTQ community has the courage to stand on their own, get out of their way. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything. For the love of God. You know, if a couple of Black guys are like, you know, I want to take a knee because I'm really upset about law enforcement, leave them alone. You know, they've been through something. Give them a break. You know, we need to give people a break, and we need to give people the room to be themselves. That's my biggest ask of people, you know, pardon the metaphor, but get off their necks.
That's a wonderful ask.
That is a wonderful ask. And Nina, I'm sure you agree with me that we could talk to Frederick all night.
We could indeed.
But unfortunately, we do try to keep these things right around the 20-minute mark. And I think we're to our 30-minute mark. So I just want to thank you again, Frederick.
Well, this was great. Thank you so much.
This was marvelous. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Frederick.
My pleasure. Anytime. And I'm always around.
And everybody out there, you see now the end slide is up there that has, Frederick has 2 YouTube channels, one under his own name and one under Tomorrow Pictures. So please check them out. I think you will be richly rewarded. And
the links are also on Facebook. So rather than having to copy these links, you can just find the links on Facebook. And thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Frederick. We look forward to more conversations with you.
This was great.
And we'll have our next Glow conversation is next Wednesday. Is it next Wednesday? Yes. The 22nd, yes. So hope you'll come back and join us then.
Will do.
Thanks so much. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, ladies.